and a 3 and a 2 and a 1. Join us for a special SDO Daily Live as we just simply examine and talk about. Here's what the Stadia Resident Evil announcement says about the platform. Special SDO Daily Live. Let's get into it, baby.
I'm not sorry. Stay sick cause I follow my gut. They say I was pushing my luck. I'ma push me a matte all black truck. Or I'm not sorry.
What's up, people? What's up, people? What's up, people? This is a special SDO Daily Live. And why no other time would there be a helicopter in the background life supporting somebody to the hospital behind me? With that said, shout out to everybody. I wanted to do this real quick, but go over a lot of information in a quick amount of time and have a conversation with y'all as we do this. Shout out to everybody that's here live. We're going to get right to it, but let me shout out those that are already in the chat. My homie, 4 Scars Gaming, talking to his colleagues, letting them know about them clickbait articles. I see you out there, my good brother. We got it's rightest. I always butcher that. My apologies, my good friend. We got Colin Dynasty, Happy Cloud Gamer in the house, and so forth. Let's get it going, man. Thank you all for joining us live. I love doing these because, I love interacting with y'all on a regular basis. Got a lot of stuff to do behind the scenes, so I won't be doing a Stadia live session, but we got a lot of information I want to go over today, and it's all wrapped around the big announcement yesterday, which is the Resident Evil games, which is the Resident Evil 7 Gold Edition, I believe it is. Then there's like a multiplayer offshoot game, I believe, and then there's the big whoop-to-do Resident Evil Village or Resident Evil 8. The aforementioned games are coming April 1st as pro titles. Wow, that's huge. Resident Evil Village is coming day and date to the platform in May. Wow, that's extra huge. And we have all this going on around a quote-unquote festivity of innuendo, of conjecture about the life force of Stadia. So I just want to drop this in the bucket of evidence and just talk about what we feel here at Stadia Dosage is the most fathomable foot forward. If you're looking at all this information from 5,000 feet, you're an unsuspecting gamer and you're interested in Stadia, but you're trying to decide what to do because you're hearing different voices saying different things. So what I'm going to do this episode is, along with dropping this in the bucket of evidence, is I want to give a special shout out, not only to you in the chat. I see you, Ray Sherrod. I see you, Shot G, Chariot Man Gaming in the house. Love you all. But I also want to give a shout out to 4 special content creators. Okay. And I'm going to go by them one by one as far as while we go over this evidence. The first content creator is our very good friend, Eddie Player One. Okay. Eddie Player One said a while ago, I believe it was when me and Project Storm joined him on Stadia, this week on Stadia, I believe it was, where our good friend Eddie Player One said, hey, look, check this out. We get that Jade Raymond and them have dropped these tweets about them not, about Stadia not being invested in the future of games, and they didn't necessarily drop these tweets, but she retweeted tweets that had implied that Stadia was basically giving up the gaming business. And we get that the events that Jade went through, we could definitely sympathize, or troubling. Me and Eddie talked about our individual experiences of going through something similar, being told weeks prior or days prior you're doing a fantastic job, and then the next thing you know, your job is gone, right? And we can understand the frustration there. But one thing that our good friend Eddie Player One said he wanted to caution before people dove too much on those retweets is that we can't wholeheartedly say that Jade Raymond knew what was going on in the boardroom with 100% certainty, because if she knew what was going on in the boardroom, she would have known she was getting let go. Now you hear me say that often, and I want to give credit to my homie Eddie Player One. That's where that's derived from, and I think he's spot on with that one. A lot of people may be close up and they may know things, but trust me, people at a higher level that are making decisions such as this, they keep things close to the vest, and a lot of people have no idea. Shannon Studstill, who used to run a very successful studio in Santa Monica before she came to Stadia, she even said in a recent interview, there was something in the air that I questioned, but I was so busy at work, I really had no idea. I'm paraphrasing, of course. So again, take that with a grain of salt. And that's for those that feel like Stadia is on its way out, at least retail wise. Not because of a failed decision, but that's in their plans, that they want to be out of the retail game and they want to become a white label. That's their strongest piece of evidence next to SG&E closing, which if you think about SG&E closing, that's Google Stadia getting rid of their game making stint that they're going to do personally. Doesn't mean that they're not going to make games altogether. We've had Ed Software speak against that, and we also had another third party. It loses me right now, and I got people doing research on it, but they recently came to Twitter and said the SG&E closure has no ramifications on our relationship with Google. We're excited to continue to work with them and hopefully bring future games to the platform. It has no ramifications whatsoever. So I really feel the strongest piece of evidence that they have, people that are ultra doubtful, is this piece from Jade Raymond. And again, shout out to Eddie Player One for pointing out, if she was 100% plugged in into what's going on in the boardroom, she would have known that she was being let go. Okay. So the next content creator within the community that I want to highlight is my spiritual advisor, Clive Lyndon, who had a hell of a show last night. Oh my God. If you weren't listening to Clive's show, you just ain't listening. Talked about logo gate and other things that, again, the ultra deniers are saying that Stadia is not doing. That's pointing to the fact that Stadia doesn't get it, or they don't want to get it. They're not tuned in. Google doesn't care about Stadia. They just spent all this money on developing this sector, and they just said, the hell with you. Kicked you, Jazzy Jeff them off the porch and said, you're on your own, right? That being said, Clive correctly pointed out that just over the last few days, you had Logo Gate, which really, as far as I'm concerned, is really a non-factor here when it comes to Stadia, a cloud platform trying to etch its way in the cloud space. This is not a big conglomerate in the gaming space trying to battle Xbox and PlayStation. They're not even there yet. But for all intents and purposes, for craps and giggles, let's entertain Logo Gate. As far as Logo Gate is concerned, you have that as a complaint. You have pre-orders as a complaint, which I've actually brought up as well. And other things that Stadia isn't doing, they have done in the last few weeks. And all those people that said, oh my God, my hair is falling out. The follicles won't regrow. Simply because Stadia doesn't have logos. They're not doing pre-orders. All that stuff is being admonished and addressed with the big ticket games like Hitman, like Outriders, like Resident Evil. Nobody's saying anything. So he begs the question, is this just the ultra naysayers trying to re-solidify their argument for argument chips? Or is this a legitimate concern that they want to see rectified? Because when you see something, when you have a concern and you see it rectified, you announce when it's being rectified. Oh my gosh, I'm so thirsty. I need water. Somebody gives you water. Oh my goodness, I was dying of thirst. Thank you for the water. Right? You don't see that end result here. You see the complaints. You see the pile on of the complaints. When the resolution occurs, what's that nationwide commercial for my people in the States? Silence. Next content creator that I want to highlight is a fantastic one as well. My good brother Brian Chappelle of the Nerf Report. Yes. Now my good brother Brian Chappelle, he has a video out that he dropped this morning. Definitely check that out too. Fantastic stuff as always. But on a more positive note, you know how we do. Let me show you something. Brian Chappelle brought up a great point that says, hey, are we starting to see, again, despite, and this is me throwing my own words in here, but despite all the ultra naysayer rhetoric, are we starting to see Google's new market strategy in relation to Stadia retail? Not no white label, but Stadia retail. Let's take a look at it. He says, so, okay, let me make this bigger for the people in the back. Cyberpunk 2077 day and date free premiere. That's the one that kicked it off, that was ultra successful for Stadia beyond their wildest imaginations for all intents and purposes. Little Nightmares 2 day and date free with Stadia Pro. Resident Evil 7 free with Pro. Resident Evil Village day and date free premiere. Now let that sink in. Very interesting point brought up by Brian Chappelle. And I also would add, as it relates to Cyberpunk, the one that started this all, never, I think, to Google's wildest dreams, imaginations, did they think they would see the success that they saw with Cyberpunk. Why? Because for all intents and purposes, none of us imagined that Cyberpunk would play so horribly elsewhere except for Stadia and PCs. Stadia didn't know that. So they figured that this was a great opportunity for them with a potentially great game across the board to show the versatility, the ease of use, and the low barrier to entry, to get access to great game. Never did they consider that great game would be horrible game elsewhere and great game only with high power PCs and with the $0 console. As they shipped models of the Premier Bundle to you just for pre-ordering the game. And you can access it laptop, mobile device, without even having to buy an extra controller or a CCU. Just play with the devices that you have. So isn't it fathomable to believe that if something like that works so well out of their wildest imaginations could kickstart the same great points that our good friend Brian Chappelle makes? Again, more proof in the bucket. But last, but certainly not least, I got to take it back to my roots, y'all. The last content creator that I want to highlight is my good brother, Next Gen 720 of the Broadband Bullies. My good brother and my mentor, man. If you're not familiar with the Broadband Bullies, some of the raunchiest but most comical video game related content out there. I like to refer to it as Fight Club. You know what I'm saying? I've been groomed through that process, and you wouldn't even know who an MM2K was if it wasn't for the grooming and the maturing of being a broadband bully that I'm going through with my good brother Next Gen 720. You know what I'm saying? That being said, there's a famous saying that Next Gen 720 says. And for those of you that don't know who he is, he's the guy that started the whole Xbox YouTube thing. It originated with him. Diller Gaming, Crap and Mooch, Colt Eastwood, they're all products of the Next Gen 720 tree. All of them. There's no denying that. He started it all. And if it wasn't for him, you wouldn't hear from them either, including myself. That being said, I'm done paying homage to that fool though. That's my brother. That being said, there's a saying that he has said that reigns so true that I think needs to be applied to a lot of our dear friends within the Stadia community. And that is, sometimes you just got to take the biggest knife out of the drawer and cut the bullish out. Let's cut it out. First and foremost, let's go over their evidence again. Their evidence is SG&E closed down. And Jade Raymond retweeting tweets. That's the crux of their evidence. All right. When you look at the SG&E closure, again, you've had Doom Eternal developer id Software applaud that he didn't like Mark Stratton. He didn't like what happened with SG&E because people lost jobs. But from what he knows personally, Stadia is still keeping their relationships going. Another developer also said that the SG&E closure has no bearing on what they're doing whatsoever. Now, let's go to the evidence on this side. Item 1, multiple statements from Stadia about reshifting focus being the reason for the SG&E closure. Catherine, in conjunction with that, the Catherine and Sai interview with Input Mag, which was the first re-sign of the focus. It talked about how they're going to utilize games being brought to the platform to coincide with Stadia features. So it's a reshift of, hey, we're not making games, we're just going to work with other people to make games for this retail platform and utilize our features. YouTube job position, also in conjunction with that. That is based with YouTube to, again, help coordinate those such efforts that Catherine and Sai spoke about in Stadia, mentioned in their reshift letter to the public. Then you got out, then following that, they said, hey, look, we were shifting to get the stuff that you want, the big ticket games, day and date. You have Outriders go from later than everywhere else to day and date. Then you have Stadia continue to make inroads with indies through steps like the Game Jam. Then again, the aforementioned id Software, Mark Stratton, came out and said they are happy Stadia kept their partnerships and Stadia will be concrete in the future of gaming. Then you have Square Enix Showcase and others admonishing logo gate, like we said. Now you got Resident Evil on the platform day and date with new, worked, and risky promo that you don't do if you're winding something down or you're just going through if you're on autopilot and you're just letting contracts just go through their course. You don't invest more money into more risky behavior unless it's for long-term sustainability. Trust me, I know. Okay? Unless Google is on some crazy sauce, unless there's some huffing and puffing going on somewhere that we don't know about, that's not what you do when you wind down as a Fortune 500 company. Take it from me. Now, with all that said, in contrast to what their evidence is, I want you to close your eyes just for 3 seconds, think about what I just said, and realize that all that proof on this side is happening now, and it's only March. Let that sink in. So, now that you've thought about that, you've let that sink in, I'll close out with this. You're going to continue to hear rhetoric. You're going to continue to hear talk. And you have the opportunity and the right to listen to or not listen to whatever you want. I'm not trying to tell you what you shouldn't listen to. What I am saying is that if you're looking for fathomable conversations based off the evidence that is there, my suggestion to you is that if, like the majority of us, because poll after poll shows that the majority of the Stadia community either still prefer Stadia first and foremost, or they're positive for the most part about their future. I've polled it. People that are actually negative on Stadia have polled it. Numbers show, and with the same result. Secondly, if you do feel that way, continue to play your games. If you also are interested in the platform understand the weight of the evidence on one side versus the weight of the evidence on the other side. And you simply make the decision. But after all that, here's the biggest suggestion that I could give because I've had to do it myself. If after all that you still are angst about Stadia, you don't think that they're gonna make it to the next week, to the next week, to the next week. My question to you is why in the hell would you continue to buy anything on said platform that you don't know is gonna make it to sunset? When I had doubts about Microsoft not in their existence, but just in providing the games that I want, I stopped making purchases. When it was evident that Dreamcast was going under because people were pirating the hell out of it, I stopped making purchases. When GameCube, I love GameCube. I loved it more than the OG Xbox and the PlayStation. But when I was starting to go under, what did I do? I scrambled to the GameStops and the EB Games to try to find used RPGs at a low cost, and I stopped making purchases. You gotta take the biggest knife out of the drawer and cut the bullish out. So if these people are so fearful, oh my God, Stadia's going away, you gotta ask them, why are they still making purchases? Or you can look at the weight of the evidence, do what you want with it, pick up games, play them and enjoy them, like the majority of us. Decision's yours. I'm not gonna make the decision for you, but the decision is yours, just showing you where the weight of the evidence lies. And that's it from your boy MM2K. Let me know what you think about all this in the comment section below. Like I always say, we're curious what I think. But if you did like what I had to say, check out the links below to follow me. Those links will lead you to the Broadband Bullies, PNTS Network, Hard Knock Digital Culture, and yes, the Stadia Dosage. Before we go, because we are live, I want to give a special shout out again to Eddie Player One, Clive Lyndon, Brian Chappelle, and my brother Next Gen 720 for being inspirations for this video. And I want to give a shout out to you in the chat. Raven Anime, Jittery Core JC, let me tell you something. Calvin Morgan, 4 Stars Gaming, Happy Cloud Gamer, Callie Burkilla, Dominicano 791J. What's going on? Good to see you, my good friend. Chariot Man Gaming. See, Chariot Man, they don't realize Chariot Man's lineage. Check out my brother's channel. Me and him did a podcast together. We was talking about this whole Stadia Defense Force thing. Chariot Man, tell them they don't know nothing. They ain't been on the J-Wags podcast like me and Chariot Man. Y'all go look it up, y'all. Some serious stuff. Ray Sherrod in the house. And it's artist. Okay, I get it. It's artist in the house as well. Thank y'all all. Appreciate all of y'all in the chat. Thank you all if you're listening to this on demand. A little bit longer in the tooth than usual, but I think it deserved so because we highlighted great content creators. We highlighted the chat, and then we just highlighted the weight of the evidence. That's all we want to do here. We want to put everything on the table, and you make the decision. And with that said, love all of y'all. Y'all have a wonderful gaming day. Peace.